Ever feel like your anxieties run deeper than just everyday stress? Like maybe it's not just, that looming deadline or that awkward social situation.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like something more fundamental.
Right.
We're cracking open neurosis of our time again to explore that very idea.
Okay.
You shared chapter 5 with us.
Yes.
And today we're going to use it to deep dive into the roots of neurosis itself.
Okay.
So,
So what's fascinating about this chapter
yeah.
is this idea of character neurosis.
Okay.
It suggests that our reactions aren't just about what's happening, right now,
Right.
but they're influenced by like ingrained patterns and defenses often formed in childhood.
So it's like those childhood anxieties, they don't just disappear.
Right.
They become part of who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the author emphasizes that it's not always about some major childhood trauma,
Okay.
that, even seemingly idyllic upbringings
Right.
can harbor the seeds of later neurosis.
Wow.
The key factor, even more so than a specific event, is the presence or absence of genuine affection.
So not just being told, I love you, but truly feeling loved and secure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Children are incredibly resilient.
Uh-huh.
They can weather quite a storm if they have that secure base.
Okay.
But when that genuine love and connection are missing,
Yeah.
that's when even small bumps in the road can have a lasting impact.
It makes you wonder, what does that do?
Yeah.
What does that lack of genuine affection do? How does it, twist and turn in us over time?
Well, imagine a plant that's constantly being pruned back, never allowed to fully grow. That's what it can be like for a child who doesn't feel genuinely loved and accepted.
Wow.
Their natural development is stifled, creating a breeding ground for insecurity.
Yeah.
Add to that the natural frustrations of being a kid, desires thwarted, constantly told no,
Right.
and you've got a recipe for trouble.
Because kids are going to feel frustrated.
Right. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
trying to stop a volcano from erupting.
Exactly. It's natural,
Natural.
healthy even, to experience those emotions. But how they're allowed to express that frustration, that's crucial.
Okay.
And often, societal restrictions, especially around something as natural as sexuality,
Right.
can amplify those feelings of frustration and shame.
It's like we're told to repress these natural impulses, these core parts of ourselves. And that repression, that's where the real trouble starts.
Okay.
You see, unexpressed anger, that frustration we talked about,
Yeah.
it doesn't just vanish.
Right.
Think of it like this. Unexpressed anger is the seed from which neurosis grows.
Okay, now that's an image that's going to stick with me.
Yeah.
But kids don't repress their feelings on purpose, do they?
Of course not.
Right.
They do it out of a deep-seated need for love and security.
Okay.
They repress their hostility because they fear punishment, they want to please their parents, or they simply feel powerless to change their situation.
So they're stuck between this rock and a hard place. Expressing their frustration could lead to rejection, but bottling it up just eats away at them from the inside out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to see the emergence of what the author calls basic anxiety.
Okay.
That pervasive feeling of being small, helpless, and vulnerable
Right.
in a world perceived as hostile.
It reminds me of that illustration in the book, the
Yeah.
patient who drew herself as this tiny figure surrounded by monsters.
Right.
It perfectly captures that feeling of being overwhelmed and terrified,
Right.
even when there's no immediate danger.
A powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to cope with this constant undercurrent of anxiety, people develop defense mechanisms.
Okay.
Like building walls to protect themselves.
Okay, so let's talk about these walls, these defense mechanisms.
Okay.
First up, we've got seeking affection, that deep craving for love and approval
Right.
as a way to feel safe.
Which on the surface makes perfect sense,
Right.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
we all need love and connection.
Yeah.
But for someone grappling with basic anxiety,
Yeah.
this desire for affection can become all-consuming,
Right.
leading them to seek validation
Yeah.
in potentially unhealthy ways.
Which ironically can push people away,
Right.
creating the very isolation that they were trying to avoid.
Precisely. It's a
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow. Yeah.
And then there's submission,
Okay.
which is all about following the rules,
Right.
keeping your head down to avoid conflict.
The if I'm good, I won't be hurt approach to life.
Exactly.
We see this so often, don't we?
We do. And while some degree of this is necessary for any society to function,
Right.
taken to an extreme, it can lead to people becoming overly passive,
Right.
silencing their own needs and desires
Yeah.
to please others and avoid rocking the boat.
And those unexpressed needs, they don't just like disappear, do they?
Right.
They fester, leading to like
Even
resentment and inner turmoil.
Yeah.
It's almost like silencing a crucial part of who you are.
Precisely. It's like trying to silence that inner voice.
Right.
But it only finds new, often unhealthy ways to be heard.
Okay.
And speaking of unhealthy ways to cope, let's talk about power seeking.
Okay.
That insatiable drive for success, possessions, recognition, all in an attempt to feel invulnerable.
It's the classic, if I'm at the top, no one can hurt me defense mechanism.
Right.
And our culture certainly reinforces that, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We're constantly bombarded with messages about achieving more, being more, having more.
And while ambition and drive can be wonderful things, when they're fueled by this desperate need to compensate for deep-seated insecurity,
Right.
that's when things get complicated.
Because true security, it comes from within.
Yes.
Not from external validation.
Right.
Which brings us to our final defense mechanism, isolation.
Yeah.
That urge to withdraw emotionally, to like build a fortress around your heart to avoid getting hurt.
It's the if I don't let anyone in, I can't be hurt
Yeah.
strategy.
Right.
And in a way, it's the most tragic of the defenses because it cuts us off from the very connections that give life meaning.
Yeah.
Intimacy, vulnerability, true belonging.
It's a paradox, isn't it? Trying to protect yourself from pain,
Right.
but ending up even more alone, more disconnected.
Yeah.
And here's what's really interesting.
Yeah.
These defense mechanisms, they don't always play nicely together, do they?
You've hit the nail on the head.
Right.
In fact, the clash between these defenses, these conflicting impulses within us,
Yeah.
often lies at the very heart of what perpetuates neurosis.
It's like this internal tug of war.
Right.
And the most common battleground, as the author points out, is between the desire for affection and the drive for power.
A classic dilemma.
Right.
The longing to be loved and accepted,
Right.
battling with the need to be in control,
Yeah.
to protect oneself from vulnerability.
It's like that person who craves intimacy,
Right.
but then pushes everyone away the moment things start to get real.
Exactly.
Or the one who stays in a dead-end job because it gives them a sense of control, even though it's slowly crushing their soul.
Right.
Those conflicting desires can manifest in so many ways.
And that's why simply addressing the symptoms of neurosis often falls short.
Right.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound.
Okay.
The real work is in understanding the underlying anxiety, those ingrained patterns and conflicting defenses that are driving these behaviors.
So how do we begin to like unravel all of this?
Yeah.
Where do we even start?
Awareness is key.
Okay.
Simply recognizing these defense mechanisms at play in your own life can be incredibly empowering.
Okay.
It's about noticing those patterns, those knee-jerk reactions,
Mhm.
and asking yourself,
Yeah.
what need am I trying to meet here?
Right.
What am I afraid of?
It's like shining a light on those shadowy corners of our psyche, those
Yeah.
parts we've tried to keep hidden, even from ourselves.
And in that light of awareness, we can start to make different choices.
Mm.
It's not about judging ourselves for having these defenses,
Right.
but understanding their purpose.
Right.
They might have served us in the past, maybe even helped us survive.
Yeah.
But if they're no longer serving us,
Right.
we have the power to choose differently.
What's fascinating is how perceptive children are.
Right.
They pick up on those subtle cues and inconsistencies in their environment.
Absolutely.
So even if a parent isn't overtly abusive or neglectful,
Right.
if a child senses that love is conditional,
Yes.
that it depends on their behavior or achievements,
Right.
that can be incredibly damaging, can it?
Absolutely. It sends the message that their worthiness is tied to external factors rather than being inherent.
Right.
And this message, unfortunately, is often reinforced by the broader culture.
You mean those societal messages about success, achievement,
Yeah.
what it means to be good or worthy.
Exactly.
So it's not just about what happens within the family. It's
Right.
about the water we're all swimming in.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The author points out that certain cultural norms, particularly those around sexuality and emotional expression,
Right.
can contribute to this sense of repression and shame that ultimately fuels neurosis.
We touched on sexuality earlier, and it's interesting how often that's still like a bit of a taboo topic.
Right.
But you're right. The author suggests it plays a significant role.
It does.
And it's not just about overt sexual problems, right?
Yeah.
It's about how those early experiences, those messages we internalize,
Yeah.
shape our overall sense of self and our ability to relate to others in healthy ways.
Absolutely. And this is where those dynamics of affection and power we discuss become particularly relevant.
Because if someone learns to associate love with control or equates vulnerability with weakness,
Right.
that's going to have a ripple effect on their relationships, their career, their entire life, isn't it?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
It can lead to all sorts of challenges. Difficulty setting boundaries,
Yeah.
codependency, fear of intimacy.
Right.
It's like being trapped in a prison of your own making, your own defenses, preventing you from experiencing true connection and fulfillment.
Right.
So if someone's listening to this and recognizing themselves in these patterns,
Yeah.
what message of hope can we offer? It feels like we've uncovered some pretty heavy stuff.
It does, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I think the very act of like bringing these patterns to light,
Right.
of understanding them,
Yeah,
is a huge step toward healing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awareness is the foundation. It's like we're switching on the lights in a room.
Right.
It's been shrouded in darkness for years.
And in that light, we can finally see the furniture, the dust bunnies,
Exactly.
all the things we might have bumped into in the dark.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can start to clean house, so to speak.
Yeah.
We can challenge those old patterns.
Right. Wow.
Replace those outdated defense mechanisms with healthier ways of coping.
So it's not about judging ourselves for having these defenses,
Right.
but understanding that they served a purpose.
Yeah.
They might have been necessary for survival at one point,
Right.
but we don't have to cling to them anymore.
Well, precisely.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we have a choice now.
Right.
We can choose to relate to ourselves and others in a new way.
Okay.
One based on authenticity, self-compassion, and a deep understanding of our own worthiness.
It's like we're shedding old, ill-fitting armor,
Yes.
finally allowing ourselves to like move freely and breathe deeply.
Right.
That's a powerful image to kind of end on.
Yeah.
Freedom from those like self-imposed limitations.
And it is possible.
Yeah.
It might not be easy.
Right.
It takes courage,
Yeah.
self-compassion,
Right.
and often the support of a skilled therapist.
Yeah.
But that journey of self-discovery, the freedom that comes from breaking free from those limiting patterns,
Right.
is well worth the effort.
Absolutely. It's like stepping out of the shadows and into the light,
Yes.
finally embracing the fullness of who we are.
Beautiful.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this.
Okay.
Think about those defense mechanisms we discussed.
Yes.
Which ones resonate with you?
Right.
Are they serving you, or are they holding you back from experiencing true connection and fulfillment?
Right.
It's a question worth exploring as you continue on your own journey of self-discovery.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Right.
We all have these defenses in one form or another.
Yeah.
The key is to meet ourselves with compassion and curiosity as we begin to unravel those patterns and step into the fullness of who we are.
Beautifully said. And for anyone listening who's ready to take that next step,
Yeah.
remember, there's no shame in asking for support.
Right.
A skilled therapist can be an incredible guide on this journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely.
So be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Be curious.
Yeah.
And keep exploring those depths.